Hey everyone, I'm Lorraine Driscoll, founder of Building Better Brains. So if you know that your child is struggling with reading and you're trying to think of what else can you do, and you feel like maybe you feel like you're trying all the things, then this is for you in terms of just some really quick tips or things to consider, I should say. So basically, what has been found over and over again with the research is that kids with reading difficulties, learning disabilities in general, tend to have deficiencies in certain nutrients. They're more vulnerable to that. And what I always like to think about is whenever someone's training, like whether it's in weightlifting or to run a marathon or something of the sort, they have a very specialized and different diet, right? In order to be able to do that. Well, your kid is doing an academic marathon every single day. Like literally, they're doing that at school. Even though we don't think of it that way. And we need to make sure their brain has all of the nutrients it needs in order to function, learn, read, process, remember, just to feel calm and relaxed, to be in that good learning state. And kids with learning difficulties are at a more of a disadvantage, right? We already know that with a lot of things. And so this is why it's really important to maximize their learning and so forth by making sure the brain is getting the fuel that it absolutely needs. So the number one nutrient that you want to consider is omega-3s. 60% of the brain is fat, 20% of the retina is fat, and omega-3s have been found to not only be very deficient in these kids, but a lot of them have a genetic variant that makes it harder for their brain, or for their body, I should say, to metabolize or absorb these omega-3s. So it's really, really important they're getting adequate amounts of omega-3s. And studies even found these kids made like significant gains, like really amazing improvements on their state exams after they had been on good quality omega-3 supplements with higher DHA to EPA. Second nutrient, the saying zinc makes you think is not just a catchy rhyming phrase, it's the truth. It's responsible for memory, processing speed, focus, and so much more. It's definitely a go-to. You do not want to just supplement, however, with zinc and think, that that's the end of the story. I like to look at clinical symptomology, so things like zinc spots or white spots on the fingernails are often a sign of zinc deficiency, but you do want to be careful. That's why I always advise working with a practitioner, because if your child is deficient in, they can end up with a deficiency in copper if we use too much zinc, and we also want to be careful because it is a mineral, so we want to make sure we're not overdoing it. Third nutrient is magnesium. So I love magnesium for kids who have everything from anxiety to learning difficulties to ADHD. It is known as nature's relaxation mineral, and it's the truth. It's really, really important for over 300 different functions in the body. So number one, yes, it helps these kids who really struggle with a high level of anxiety because they are under a lot of academic stress, because they, often feel like they're different. They're worried about getting called out in class. There's a lot of anxiety there. And also it helps with focus, right? And a lot of these kids do have issues as well with ADD or ADHD. And most importantly, it helps with coordination. And a lot of our kids who have learning disabilities have fine and gross motor difficulties or deficits. And this can make a huge difference. And it can help with even things like better coordination of the eye muscles. So it's really, really important to consider these nutrients that can seem just so, not part of the learning process, but they really are essential for those functions to occur properly. Fourth nutrient, nutrients is what I should say, are B vitamins. So again, I'm not saying to go to the store and buy a whole bunch of, all these supplements that I've mentioned. You want to try to get it from your kid's diet, which I'm going to talk about another time, but B vitamins in general are really important for things like memory, processing speed, coordination, as well as all kinds of other processes that are either directly or indirectly linked to good learning. So some of the ones, just to give you an idea, like B6 is really good for focus and assisting with anxiety levels. B12, we all know, right? When old people, if their memory starts to decline, what do we always think about? B12, maybe they need B12 injections. Well, there are a lot of kids who have low B12 levels. And again, you want to be careful what version of this nutrient you're supplementing with, because depending on genetic variations, if they have the MTHFR, so many other factors, it's not as simple as that. You don't want to just start going to, your drugstore and so forth. You want to make sure you're getting good quality supplements. Last one is vitamin D. So what is interesting about this is research found that kids who had learning disabilities, their moms tended to be deficient in vitamin D during pregnancy. And they also found that vitamin D is critical for spectrum disorders and dyslexia. If you've been following me, particularly in the last few weeks, I've been talking quite a bit about how dyslexia might not be part of autism spectrum per se, but it is a spectrum disorder. It is a whole body, whole brain disorder. And so it is critical for this. And it's really, they've actually found vitamin D plays a huge role with cognition. Again, when they studied the elderly, they found that there was low vitamin D levels. Once they improved those levels and got them to an optimal level, the cognition and the memory improved. And then overall, they found that vitamin D does improve with learning and memory and so forth. So consider, is your child getting enough sunshine? Are they getting foods with B vitamins? Are they eating, enough foods with zinc, magnesium, omega-3s? How can you integrate that into their diet on a daily basis? And don't overwhelm yourself. Start with one thing at a time. That's what we do in my 6-month program. So I'm going to be offering a training May 27th, free training, and it will basically be talking about my 3-step system. I'm going to walk you through it and give you the bones of my 3-step system that I use to overcome reading difficulties. I'm even going to say learning and a lot of behavior difficulties, but I'm focusing this week, or this month I should say, on reading difficulties. And that's going to include things like nutrition, gut healing, toxicity, and exercises, brain training exercises, and how to identify if there are weak connections and so forth. So let me know in the comments below, do you think your child is deficient in any of these nutrients? Are they taking supplements? And I'm really curious to know, do you think they're deficient? What do you think they could be deficient in and why? And even is your child on any key nutrients? Sorry, I can't talk today clearly. And what ones are they on? I always like to hear what parents have decided to go with and why. So thanks for watching, everyone. I will put the link for to sign up for that free training. Make sure you save your spot because there is only so many spots on the Zoom call. And then you will get an email to make sure that you have the date and all of that reserved. Have a great day. Take care.